This AFL season is one of the most unique and memorable campaigns in recent memory. From close games to controversies, teams who have been bound for a drought-breaking premiership one week to potentially missing the finals the next, and even the top team on the ladder getting smashed by over 100 points. It has been an almighty spectacle. But a massive stain on this great season has been the MRO and the Tribunal. These departments in the AFL have been questioned for many years, but it seems that every 2 weeks now, the fans are absolutely stunned with the decisions that they're making. From giving fines to players who have the chance of winning the Brownlow, but giving other players a week or two suspension for a very similar act. Basing suspension length on injuries rather than action, and even people suggesting that the MRO and Tribunal are making decisions that are eating into the fabric of our game. And today, I want to take a look at a few actions made through the course of the year and how it is impacting this great game. And guys, if you do enjoy this video, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more video essays like this, and also make sure to comment down below how you feel about the MRO and Tribunal so far this year. But let's get into the video. But first, are you tired of watching the AFL award shows and feeling dirt poor because all the players and their partners are wearing tens of thousands of dollars while you're on the couch slowly wasting away eating your $7 packet of chips that you struggled to pay for?
Boo! You stink!
Well, we have the perfect answer for you. The new AFL's Night of Nights. On the 30th of August, we will have the second ever Boundary Riders medal count live on the channel. And not only that, but we'll also be announcing the winners of the Boundary Riders Goal of the Year and Mark of the Year awards. And of course, we'll be announcing the first ever Flog of the Year award. So set it in your calendars, guys. August 30, 7 PM AEST, the second ever Boundary Riders medal. The AFL's new Night of Nights. So to start things off, let's quickly take a look at the people involved with the Tribunal and the match review officer. So the match review officer is Michael Christian, and looking at the Tribunal chair is Jeffrey Gleeson and Renee Enben. The Tribunal panel members include Jordan Bannister, Michelle Dench, Darren Gasper, Wayne Henwood, Jason Johnson, Stephen Jurica, Richard Loverich, Stuart Lowe, Shannon McFerrin, David Neitz, Talia Radden, Scott Stevens, Shane Wakelin, and Paul Williams. So I guess these are the people who we are directing most of our hate towards. Now, of course, I am just kidding. So let's just try and keep a level head on this, guys, and not send any sort of hate to anyone mentioned in this video. But right back to the start of the season, we had 2 suspensions in the preseason. One to Sam Powell-Pepper, who was given 4 weeks for a bump to the head on Adelaide Crows player in Mark Keane. And in the next week, we saw Jimmy Webster receive one of the biggest ever suspensions in AFL history with a 7-match ban. And even though these weren't seen as bad calls from the AFL Tribunal, it did set up for an interesting season on the MRO and the department of the AFL Tribunal front. Now, over the AFL season, we have seen a total of 273 charges made, 39 suspensions, a total of 66 weeks handed out, 224 fines for a total of over $450,000 made, and 10 charges were dismissed. And I will just quickly mention as well, the suspensions we'll be focusing more on this video are to do with more football acts rather than hits off the ball. But anyway, getting into the first contentious issue with this season, which was the bump from Peter Wright. So Peter Wright was leading up for a mark in this contest when Swans player Harry Cunningham came from his left to cut off Peter Wright, and realising that Cunningham was going to get to the ball first, Wright would brace for impact. Now, as a result of this hit, Cunningham came off with concussion and was out for the rest of the game. Now, this was a big debate in the AFL space, as some people were calling for Wright to be made an example of and give him a massive ban, while some people, such as Wayne Carey, would take the side that it was just an accident and all Wright was doing was bracing, and it was just an unfortunate outcome that Cunningham got injured. I mean, he didn't exactly frame it in that way, but that's the point that he was trying to get across. But at the end of the day, the match review officer and Michael Christian handed down a 4-match ban to Peter Wright. Now, the Essendon camp challenged this straight away to send this to the Tribunal, but the Tribunal upheld the decision, so Peter Wright would miss 4 matches. Now, I'm a little bit biased on this, as I am a Swans fan, but at the time, the Bombers were pushing the notion of the Essendon edge in the media, which did sit in front of mind for most Swans fans at the time, and probably sat at the front of the mind of the MRO and Tribunal. So I do see why the AFL handed down a 4-match ban at the time, because it was a massive hit and the player did come off with concussion. The optics of the incident don't look good for the AFL either. But you also can't expect the player to be perfect in every single situation. And despite Wright leading with his shoulder, you can't expect him to place his body in a way that protects Cunningham every single time. It was a split-second decision, and Wright was just protecting himself, which is a human instinct. So at the time, I thought he deserved 4 weeks, but now I'm a little bit uncertain as to if the AFL made the correct decision or not. but I do understand why the AFL did, because the optic of the hit wasn't great at all. Now, the next suspension I want to take a look at, I think, is a flat-out terrible call. So looking to round 7, we had St Kilda player in Jack Higgins be suspended for a dangerous tackle on Port Adelaide player Aliir. Now, Aliir did get concussed and took no further part in the game from this contest. Now, you watch the clip and you can probably see why the MRO decided to give Higgins 3 matches. Yeah, I have no clue why he even got suspended for this either. Higgins was in the process of tackling, and a player's instinct is to stop their opponent from releasing the ball. So, of course, he's going to try and take his opponent to ground. But also, Aliir is in such an awkward position, I don't understand what the AFL is expecting Higgins to do. Now, St Kilda did challenge this at the time to the tribunal, but the decision was upheld yet again, and Higgins would face a 3-match ban. Now, I understand the injury to the opponent does come into account a lot when trying to hand down suspensions, but at the end of the day, Jack Higgins did leave an arm free, and it was just an unfortunate outcome that Aliir was in such an awkward position, and it was hard for Higgins to have a duty of care with his opponent when he was in mid-air and he was trying to get the ball away from Aliir. And remember, Jack Higgins is a small forward inside the forward 50. He's a player trying to get the ball out to give his team the opportunity to score. But even though this wasn't a massive talking point compared to the other ones we'll talk about in this video, I think it does set a precedent for upcoming suspensions. So moving to 8 rounds into the future, into round 15, we saw another dangerous tackle which involved Geelong captain in Patrick Dangerfield. So this game was between the Geelong Cats and Carlton, and the incident in question was a tackle made by Dangerfield on Carlton star Sam Walsh. Now, as you can see in the footage, Dangerfield pins both arms and takes Walsh to ground. Now, the big issue with this tackle is the fact that Dangerfield doesn't show any duty of care with Walsh, no way to brace for impact, and because of this, Walsh's head hit the turf in pretty brutal fashion. Now, Walsh did actually play on from this contest and played out the rest of the game, but the MRO would hand Dangerfield a 1-match suspension, which was immediately challenged by the Cats and sent to the tribunal. Now, the way this was graded by the MRO was careless conduct, high contact, and medium impact, resulting in the 1-match suspension. Now, keep this in your memory because it will be important later, but Dangerfield went to the tribunal and won the case and was free to play next week. Now, this was strange in my opinion because I think it was a pretty heavy hit, and even though Walsh was okay after the incident, the action is something the AFL have been on record saying players need to have a duty of care with their opponents, which Patrick Dangerfield clearly doesn't show here. But if the AFL were to be consistent with rulings like this, then I wouldn't see an issue with it. But fast forward to only a few weeks later, we had the infamous incidents involving GWS Giant in Toby Bedford and Brisbane Lion in Charlie Cameron. So first we'll take a look at the Cameron incident, and this was a pretty interesting one. Now, the player who received the tackle was Eagle and Liam Duggan, and when he was tackled, you can see Cameron come to him with speed and hit him from the front, which takes Duggan off balance. And you can see Duggan try to regain his balance with his feet, but Cameron tackling him through that action would see Duggan lose his balance, falling backwards, and see Duggan slam his head into the turf. Now, Duggan took no further part in the game due to concussion, but as we all know, in a contact sport, sometimes accidents do happen, and at the end of the day, this was purely an accident, and Cameron really couldn't have done much else here. But the AFL MRO handed down a massive penalty to Charlie Cameron with a 3-match ban, and this had the AFL world in a headspin. Cameron did what he's been taught to do for his whole career, tackle his opponent. And I understand the game has changed and they have to show a duty of care, but Duggan was the player that lost balance, and the unfortunate outcome was that Cameron basically lost his balance and fell on top of him. It was just an accident at the end of the day, and there was nothing he could have done to prevent him falling on top of Duggan. Now, the Lions would challenge the case at the tribunal and would lose. This stunned everyone, as fans at times have thought that Michael Christian has made some mistakes, but the tribunal is there to fix up any of those issues. But on this occasion, the tribunal went on the favour of the MRO's decision. This meant the Lions only had one other option, which was to appeal the decision at the appeals board, and funnily enough, they threw out the case. Now, the appeals board chair in Will Horton said that it is important the laws of the game have primacy over the tribunal guidelines if there is any contradiction or inconsistency. He ruled the tribunal did not fully consider Law 18.7 when upholding Cameron's ban. The tribunal made a finding that the conduct of Cameron was unreasonable in the circumstances. However, what the tribunal did not do do was deal with the elements of the charge which was set out in the laws of Australian football. Whilst we accept the tribunal found conduct to be unreasonable, which is one element of the offence, it completely failed to consider the second critical element of the offence, that is whether the conduct was likely to cause injury. Absent that consideration, we consider the tribunal did fall into an error of law that had material impact on its decision. Now, I know that's probably just a bunch of mumbo jumbo to a lot of people, but at the end of the day, Cameron was clear to play and the Brisbane Lions could put this behind them. But now let's move to the Bedford tackle. Now, Toby Bedford laid a very similar tackle to Paddy Dangerfield, which I mentioned a little earlier. As you can see, Bedford locked the arms of Taranto and slammed his head into the turf. The only real difference between both of these cases is the fact that Taranto came off with concussion while Walsh continued to play. But if you play the two clips next to each other, they are almost a carbon copy of each other. However, even though Michael Christian handed Dangerfield a 1-match suspension, Bedford would receive a 3-match ban. Now, remember I talked about the grading of Dangerfield's tackle? It was that it was careless conduct, high contact, and medium impact. But with Bedford, it was careless conduct, high contact, and severe impact. Now, you can watch this clip and tell me, is there really any difference in terms of force in any difference? The only thing I see different was the outcome. Walsh continued to play, Taranto came off with concussion. Now, with the Giants taking this to the tribunal, you would think that as they dismissed the Dangerfield incident, that they would quickly overturn the Bedford ruling. But no, the tribunal ruled in favour of the MRO's decision. So in the same week as Cameron losing his tribunal hearing, Bedford also faced the same fate. Now, this faced uproar from people in the AFL space and the wider football public. We, as the public, were immediately outraged by the decision and people were concerned about where the game was heading. And on the Giants' point of view, they only had one other option, like the Lions, to take this to the appeals board and hope for the best. Now, I think most people were pretty sceptical about if both players would get their decisions overturned, and if the appeals board was willing to say the AFL, MRO and Tribunal made 2 blunders in 1 week. But sanity did prevail and the appeals board ruled in favour of Bedford and the Giants, and he was free to play. Now, the appeals board chair and Will Horton had to say on the Bedford incident that we accept that the Tribunal found unreasonable conduct. However, it made no finding about whether or not conduct of player Bedford was likely to cause injury. So pretty similar to the Cameron incident. Now, I was going to end the video right around here, but with the last round of the season, we saw another contentious issue in the match review front involving Cozzy Pickett. So on Friday night, he was involved in a bump to the head of Collingwood captain and Darcy Moore. So both players were running for the ball when Pickett went for a bump on Darcy Moore to then run back onto the footy and have more time with it, as Moore at the very least would be off balance. But at the moment when Pickett elected to bump, Moore went to his knees and the Pickett bump, which would have connected with Moore's shoulder, instead hit Moore in the head. Now, Moore went off with concussion in this game, and on Saturday afternoon, the AFL MRO handed Pickett a 3-match suspension. Now, Michael Christian graded this incident as careless conduct, severe impact, and high contact, leading to a 3-match ban. Now, I understand the AFL will likely make the argument that as soon as Pickett elected to bump, that his innocence has been taken away. But at the time of the bump, Pickett was only electing to bump to give himself more time to then get back onto the footy, not to injure or cause harm to Darcy Moore. So I think this is a terrible decision from the MRO, because if anything, Darcy Moore is most at fault because he elects to go to ground. Pickett, who I know has a poor history in these types of incidences, was only bumping to give himself more time on the football, not just to bump and cause harm. So I don't know if this decision will be overturned, but I really hope it does because I think this is a huge overstep from the AFL. So I did mention this in my umpiring video that the main issue people are having at the moment is confusion. No one knows what the hell is going on. And this is a prime example of how much of a joke the MRO and Tribunal have done at their job at the moment. Now, I understand people can sit there and say that they have been always bad, but I don't know. It just seems this year it has been an absolute farce at times. And the thing is, AFL players aren't even allowed to speak out about it because they'll be reprimanded or get a warning from the AFL. This is like a worker trying to voice their frustration with the workplace. And instead of the workplace trying to take that on board, they reprimand you and shut you down. Bloody gutless from the AFL, this, trying to shut down Tom Green for trying to voice his opinion. Now, I know the words, "this is ruining the game," gets thrown around quite a lot. But right now, if these departments don't get a severe overhaul in the upcoming off-season, I really do have some concerns for the future of our grade game. Hey guys, thanks for watching to this point of the video. I really do appreciate it. Now, I really do hope over the off season that there is a massive overhaul with the MRO and Tribunal because they need some serious work. I think like the umpiring in the game, it has been neglected for years and needs some serious changes. But guys, make sure to leave me a comment down below about your thoughts on the MRO and Tribunal this season. Of course, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Share this to a mate if they're as big a footy fan as you. And if you want to show a little bit of extra support, we do have channel membership enabled on the channel. So if you guys would like early access to our podcasts, early access to all of these videos and video essays, and have upcoming suggestions for the channel and live stream perks, then make sure to click the link down below marked channel membership. But guys, again, thank you for listening, thank you for watching, thank you so much for the support, and we'll catch you all in the next one.